Bob, man, it is good to meet you. I know we've been introduced through email, but it's good to see you face to face finally.
Yeah, it does happen every once in a while. I'm glad to. You have to forgive me for the background. I'm a Steeler fan, diehard. So it's Steeler football season. So that's the one I used.
I was about to say football season's here. That's perfectly okay. I'm probably maybe one of the biggest football fans you'll meet as well. So I've been watching your Steelers, man. You got Aaron Rodgers. It's kind of
Last
been a
week was
little up and
tough.
down.
Yeah, yeah. Last week was little rough to watch against the Chargers, but outside of that, they've I've been pleasantly surprised. This is just inconsistent. Just the offense plays great, the defense doesn't. The defense plays great. The offense hopefully takes advantage, but they haven't been. So it's
Yeah.
in Pittsburgh, and I'm from Pittsburgh, but I live in Southern California. Uh, it's Steeler football's a religion,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things you grow up with, and the terrible towel in the '70s, and of course I was there in the '70s and that kind of stuff. So the Immaculate Reception. So it's one of those things that as a we used to call ourselves Pittsburghers, now they call us Yinzers, but one of those things that you just live and die with. And I live and die with the Penguins and the Pirates too. So go Paul Skeens.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm an Arkansas guy, so I'm an Arkansas baseball fan.
I
But
kind of figured it was somewhere in there.
yeah. But watching Paul pitch at LSU was magical. He
Oh,
was
I
just
tell you.
incredible. He's one of the best college pitchers I've ever seen.
I know they had an article on the Pirate website. Did he have the best season ever in the modern era for a Pirate? And
Yeah,
it's easily yes. It's just unbelievable season and two seasons. And I mean, now he's a Cy Young Award winner, and he's going to be with us at least one more year. We have club control for three more, but at least one more. And you never know, with the ownership there, what's going to happen. But we hope and pray.
yeah. I think everyone's watching that situation closely. As that's been a big story. But no, and you mentioned the terrible towel. I figure you got one of those laying around somewhere too.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah. As a matter of fact, I think I actually have it in my office here somewhere.
yeah,
But yeah, one of the ones from actually from the '70s. I think I have.
wow.
Yeah, I think mine's from the '70s. So yeah, it's right here
That's
somewhere.
incredible. That's incredible. Well, Bob, no, I could talk sports all day and obviously you can too being from Pittsburgh, but your career and your work's taken you a lot of different places outside of Pittsburgh.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
California, El
As
Paso,
a
places.
yeah, I was a correspondent for the UPI radio network, national correspondent. Then I became bureau chief in Los Angeles, and with that, golly, covered the '88 Olympics in Seoul. I was there for almost a month. Took my vacation in China and Hong Kong right out of that. Um, and been to 26 countries, I think it is now, overall, and some that don't exist anymore. and But yeah,
Yeah.
traveled the country quite a bit as far for sports or for news. I also worked in El Paso, as you mentioned. I worked in Oklahoma a couple of times, and Palm Springs, all over Southern California and Central California. Spent a lot of time in the Central Valley, Bakersfield, Fresno, and those areas. Arizona, all those, and Texas.
Yeah.
Worked in many places in around mainly the western half of the U.S. Never really got a chance to work in the East. I'm still working, so I mean, I'm a news anchor at KNX News Radio in Los Angeles, the all news station, and have
Yeah.
been for the last almost 20 years. I've said 20 years there, but the last stretch is almost 20. And
Yeah.
so, but it's been 53 years in broadcast. And matter of fact, my editor and I were talking a couple of Saturdays ago that he's a little older than I am. He's been in radio for about 55 years. and one of the younger people, who works there was asking us about she's just getting into radio,
Yeah.
and she has a job would call NPA switcher. The younger kids right out of college, they do a lot of the setup stuff and the switching and a lot of the dirty work that so we don't have to. And he was asking about radio history and talking to us, and because she goes, we don't get that much in school, we don't get that much background, and I can pick your guys' brains. And I looked at her and I said, well, between Rick and I, we have over 100 years of experience. So
Yeah.
that's kind of a good
A
wealth of
century.
knowledge.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, I guess where do you consider home, or what's been like your top 1 or 2 places that you've really enjoyed living and working in?
Well, home has to be now for the last many years, here in Southern California.
Yeah, yeah,
My hometown, and like I mentioned, is Pittsburgh, and I will never give that up.
yeah,
My diehard love for my teams and my city. Um, I haven't been back in a while. I still have a lot of relatives and friends back there. Of course, a lot of
yeah,
my friends have moved out, and either they moved here or they moved to Florida, which is something you do on the East Coast traditionally. And um, but Southern California's home. I live in the greater Los Angeles area, and but I enjoyed my time in El Paso. Enjoyed my time somewhat in Palm Springs. Um, Tulsa was interesting,
yeah,
had its moments, and, I'd say Central Valley, Bakersfield, and Fresno, I really enjoyed except for the one thing, the Tule fog, and it's there for about 9 months out of the year, you have fog,
mm,
and it doesn't really lift, and it gets kinda depressing at times, and when it's not foggy, it's hot, so, it's like but the people there are great, the market was great as far as, the experience, and, and so I'd say, you know probably Los Angeles and the greater LA area. I lived in Ventura. Ventura was great because it was right on the ocean. You
yeah,
could walk the beach if you wanted, and, and it was a great community. I spent a lot of time there, about 13 years, and then I was there a couple of years when I was a kid.
yeah,
My parents, moved there, and, I always enjoyed that area, and it's a surfer community. It's still kinda old school in a lot of ways, so it's really, one of those places that you kind of once you're there, you kinda love it.
yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's just cool to talk with someone who's had, so many good experiences in different parts of the country, and you probably met
Mhm.
different people, different
Oh, yeah.
backgrounds, different ways of life for sure when you're talking Tulsa and California and
Right.
stuff like that. So,
The yin and the yang type of thing there.
yeah, yeah, and I'm from Arkansas, so I'm not too far away from Tulsa, so I know kinda what you're
Right.
talking about there. Um, no, but that's man, that's really cool. Well, talk a little bit about, because Bob, I got introduced to you from your newest book,
Mhm.
5 Seconds to Die, but I didn't realize you actually have, is it 16 books that you've
16,
written and
right.
published
Yeah.
now?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've got, 7 of them are Westerns. It's a series of Westerns. I have to write 3 more of those, which I haven't, I've been working more on screenplays lately, so, I haven't, had a chance to get back to those books. I've got several that I need to catch up on. 5 Seconds to Die is the first book that I actually wrote that was designed to be a film. Um, I wrote it in the style of a film, not as a screenplay,
yeah,
but in the style of a film. There's car chases and there's motorcycle chases and there's international intrigue and a lot of people and a lot of things going a lot of different ways with government. And basically, it's about an attempted hack of the 2028 Olympics here in Los Angeles to the
oh,
tune of $80 billion. And the idea is that there's a criminal gang that brought together criminal gangs from around the world to do this major hack. And anybody that did anything with the Olympics, whether it was a dime or a dollar, uh, was going to get hacked, and their information was going to get stolen, and they were going to get their bank accounts ripped off.
yeah,
And it's all brought together by an Armenian gang in Glendale, California, which is a very heavy Armenian area in greater Los Angeles.
Mhm.
They bring together all sorts of ethnic gangs. Well, the people that are trying to foil that is a detective named Casey Order, and his a woman he hooks up with who's a former actress, we'll put it that way, on Beauty Queen, and she was the former girlfriend of the Armenian gang mob leader, and she overheard that this was in the works, and she had to get out, and she sought out this private detective who used to be a reporter, and that's where it goes from there. They kind of hook up, and they end up on being chased internationally for a flash drive to
Yeah.
try to get. That information back to um, avert the to foil the hack,
Yeah.
and that's what it's about. It's they go. It's a globe-trotting story that's a fast and a fun read, and I pictured it as a film when I wrote it, and I wrote it
Yeah.
specifically when I set out to write it. I wrote it for that specifically in mind.
Yeah.
Haven't had any bites yet, but been out there talking to people.
Yeah, yeah. So really the ultimate goal though is to see this become a film.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, that sounds I mean, Bob, that's a book for the guys if I've ever heard one. It's it fits in nicely with our theme, the Books for Guys theme. I mean, you got me kind of amped up to read it and hopefully watch a movie about, the film at some point whenever that gets made.
I love it. It's, it is, it's sort of it starts out sort of film noir, but there's a lot of humor in it.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, the first line is I start writing the story, and the writer who's telling the story says, "Ah, scratch that. That's corny," and then goes rewrites the first line, and all that's in the book. So it starts out with a bit of humor, and I one thing I've taken to doing a lot of the people in this book, and I started doing it a few books ago, are real people by name, people that I know.
Yeah.
There's probably maybe 8 or 9 people in this book whose names are real people,
Yeah.
and some of the bad guys, some of the good guys, and like there's um, a DEA agent who I know very well and who's been a longtime friend of mine, and his name
Yeah.
is Richard Kroc. And so I used Richard Kroc in the book as a DEA agent. And of course, I had to get his permission first. I didn't have
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
but I
yeah.
did,
I was like, "Do these
and
people know
uh,
they're in the book?"
yeah, and, so I put my brother-in-law in a book, and,
Yeah.
and made fun of him. I mean, but, so I've done that to the point where, it actually helps me write, because I get a picture of a real person,
Yeah.
and, there's my friends I have 4 friends, dear friends in Scotland, and who were in our fantasy football league of all things,
Nice.
who, I've got in the book, and because we go to Scotland, in a part of the book goes to Scotland and the UK and Italy, and I have dear friends in Italy. So 4 young women, well, they're not young anymore, but they're younger than me, and who are the daughters of my best friend who passed away a number of years ago. And I
Mhm.
have them in the book, and I have one of them as a hero,
Yeah.
and well, they're all actual heroes because of what they do, but one is a physical hero. And
Yeah.
so it's been a lot of fun putting them in and they I don't sell many books. I give them a book, and they have a great time. Hey, I'm in this book. This
Yeah.
this is me. I'm in here.
Seeing who their character is.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I embellish their characters obviously because that's what it is, and they have to kind of know that that's coming. But
Yeah.
I don't think outside of my brother-in-law, who I give a lot of crap to. I think he's the only one that I've really taken to
Take
task on
on.
that. So.
Yeah, that's really cool though, because I one of my questions for you was gonna be kind of just where you get your inspiration from, how do you go
Mm,
about your writing process, and you're actually one of the first authors. I mean, obviously authors they kind of sometimes base characters off of people they've met or known, but
mhm.
for you to actually, like, put people that you correspond with all the time and they know about it and for
Right.
you to be able to, like, think about them while you're writing the story, um, I mean, that seems like to me, that's like a no-brainer, but I haven't talked to many people that actually take that approach with it like you do.
Uh-huh. It's a different concept. Sometimes I think a lot of people would back off from doing it just because that means they've got this relationship with this person that now has changed. And it really hasn't because you're writing fiction, and if you're writing a true story, if you're writing the Epstein files or something like that, that'd be a little different story. But the it the inspiration for me, generally speaking, is things just pop into my head. And a lot of times I'll be driving down the road, and I'll be real honest with you, this happens so much. I do a lot of my thinking when I'm driving. And here in LA, you go anywhere, it's at least an hour. So you're
A
gonna
lot
be
of car
on
time.
the road for an hour, and then you're gonna be on the road for an hour back. I mean, I
Yeah,
drive an hour and 20 minutes to work, and then I drive an hour and 20 minutes back every day that I go. So I have a lot of time to think if I'm not listening to a podcast or something like that.
yeah,
And so I'll see something on the side of the road, maybe somebody doing something, maybe somebody riding a bike, and for some reason, just pops into my head. I'll think, okay, and then all of a sudden, there's this story develops out of this little thing, and I'll usually pull over. I'll grab my phone. I'll turn on the recorder, and I'll record 15, 20 seconds of my thoughts.
yeah,
And sometimes I get more than that. Sometimes I get a beginning and an end, and I have to fill in the middle at a later date. And there's probably about 20 of those on my phone, which I have not acted upon yet.
yeah,
And sometimes I'll get home, excuse me, and I'll go right to my computer. And what I'll do is I'll just, jot that down from my
yeah,
phone to notes, and I'll have save that in the file for later so I don't lose it. And so that's usually how it happens. Every once in a while, I'll be sitting there and just thinking of something, or my grandson is an actor, and
uh-huh,
he's in high school, but he's an actor and a very good actor,
yeah,
and handsome as can be. So I mean, I got high hopes for him.
yeah,
But he loves musical theater. He loves theater, and that's what he's doing. And we talked a little bit, and I said, let's write a play together, you know? And so I said, give me some ideas of what you're thinking about. And so he did. We talked a little bit, and I've been writing the play. And it's the first play I've ever written. And I've never done that before. That's the one thing I haven't written. So I had to,
yeah,
it's a new experience. It really is. It's
yeah,
totally different than writing a screenplay.
yeah,
Because when you're writing a screenplay, it's visual. There's so many things you just don't use dialogue.
yeah,
There's this you tell it on screen. Where on a play, it's the exact opposite.
mhm,
You have to tell because people are looking at what's on the screen. There is no screen, you know, and so they're just having to see what's on, and it's up to the actors to in their dialogue to tell the story. So,
yeah,
and that's been fun. It's been challenging. It has really been challenging, and we've got to get together here probably another around the holidays. We're going to try to talk a little bit about it, but see where it's going. But
yeah,
it's probably about 2/3 finished for the first draft. So,
yeah,
but, I wanna get back to it. So it's a great story he came up with, and then I embellished it and came up with ideas, and, my head just goes boom, 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 boom,
yeah,
and, a lot of people was like, "Well, let me think about this," and mine is like, "It's there, let me get it down on paper or on a computer," so that's kind of where my inspiration comes from, just on a daily basis, so.
yeah. Are a lot of your books, and I was kinda looking through them, are they all primarily fiction books? I know you've got, like,
No.
your baseball story when you were younger, I was looking at that one,
Right.
but I was kinda curious, like, you're challenging yourself, you got screenplay, this book's for a film, now you're writing a play. Like, with all the experience and stories that you've covered over your
Mhm.
career, have you ever thought about writing, like, a nonfiction book about a person or a story that you covered?
I have, it's in the future, and I'm gonna say that I'm going to write one. Actually, my very first book was a coffee table biography of uh, how should I put this? Uh, a former burlesque queen who married a Major League Baseball player.
Okay.
And that's my passion script. And it started as a book. We optioned the book, and it's a coffee table book. It's huge. And it's like 85 photos, and it's called Fan Letters to a Stripper. And her
I
name
saw
is
that.
Patty Wagon, and she married a major league player while they were in the minor leagues named Don Rudolph. And that goes back to my first pack of baseball cards, because on the back of the card, 1959, was a cartoon. The Topps cards had a cartoon on the back in 1959, and the cartoon is usually about the player. Well, in this case, the cartoon basically had um, a woman dancing on a tabletop, and it's her. It's Patty. I mean, you look at it's her, and she's wearing a skirt, and she's kicking up her skirt, kicking up her leg like this, little skirt, and the ball player's leaning in on the table looking up her skirt.
Yeah.
And it says Dawn's wife is a professional dancer. Well, she wasn't a professional dancer alone. She was one of the highest paid strippers in the country at the time,
Wow.
and she was dancing all over the Midwest, the East. There was stuff with her in Indianapolis. They were both in it. He played ball in Indianapolis while she was dancing there. And they traveled the country in their professional careers, and they were married. And that was my first pack of baseball cards. And I've had this story for, you know, almost 70 years. And I did some negotiations. We owned some rights and things like that. So I did the book, wrote the screenplay for a feature film, wrote a streaming series of 8 episodes. And we're trying to get that stuff made. It's been a long time. We did option the book, and it's always tough. Finding the money, finding the interest, finding the producers, and the people that want to do that and are
Yeah.
willing to do it and put up money. I mean, technically, really, for the series, it's probably about $30 million, and for the feature film, probably about 20, maybe 15 or 20. And so it's not an easy pitch, you know. But so I did do that. Um, I did the memoir, the youth memoir, Tales of My Baseball Youth, Child of the '60s. I did that. I also wrote a nonfiction book on uh, um, the internet called No Barrier, which is became outdated 2 days after I wrote it, you know? And, it's kind of a good book to go back and look at all how jobs changed with the advent of the internet. And then I wrote another
Yeah.
one, an instructional book on batting and golfing, on your swing. And,
Yeah.
but, years ago, I had an agent who, um, wanted me to write, uh, a true story, and he felt that was the best way for me to break into the field. And, because I had, as you mentioned, I haven't done a lot of them. And,
Mhm.
I the problem with that is the time need to take for research, because you can't screw up. You can't how one of my editors said, "Yeah, you can't make stuff up. You gotta be accurate, you gotta do the research, and that takes time, and sometimes it takes money, and time is probably the one thing I have less of, and, but as I move along further in life, sometimes I have a little more time. So, I'm gonna do that, I'm going to get there. I've got a couple of ideas. There was a story I covered in Bakersfield, um, uh, which which is really kinda interesting, and I really like, and there's been a couple others along the way, so it's gonna happen. It's just, when you need to crank out a couple of books, fiction is the way to go.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's cool. I mean, you have so many hands and so many different projects, and it sounds like
Yeah.
you've got even more in your phone that if you
Yeah,
need something else to do, you got plenty of options to jump
true.
into. But, um, another question I had for you, Bob, is
Uh-huh.
I found your Instagram too, and I saw some baseball cards posted on there, a
Cool.
couple of the posts. Have you, I don't know, how many baseball cards do you think you have?
Oh, tens of thousands.
Yeah.
Um, I sell on eBay, always have. I used to own a
Okay.
baseball card store, you know, and, but if anybody's listening and they wanna see my stuff, it's under Brill Pro, which is my last name, Brill, then PRO for productions, Brill Pro. That's my, handle on, eBay. I've sold on eBay probably over, I think it's like 6, 7,000 items over the course of the years, and,
Wow.
um I occasionally buy a collection. I enjoy buying collections. I don't so much anymore because I have so much stuff. Matter of fact, I'm doing some purging now, and of a storage locker and a second storage locker in the garage, and I have so much stuff.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I look to my right here and I see just some of the stuff that I have up. I think I have like 700 items up there now, and
Wow.
and it's to the point where I'm even selling some of my childhood stuff, and the reason is I'm just, I'm purging. This
Yeah.
stuff that I don't need anymore. I've gotten the great enjoyment out of it over the course of my life. And for no other reason than I don't want to pay for storage anymore. I'm paying for storage and my kids don't want it.
Yeah.
And it's collectibles that other people would want.
Yeah.
So I've enjoyed it. I've moved on, and it's time to let someone else enjoy that, and hopefully I get a little financial gain out of it, and that always helps. So life moves on in that
Yeah.
cycle. So,
Yeah. No, it's cool. A couple years ago, my parents, they pulled my football cards out of the, attic, and it was really
uh,
cool. As a young guy, I remember from birthdays, Christmas, I just wanted boxes and boxes of football
right.
cards. I
Over
was that
tax.
Yeah, yeah, but I was just that elementary school kid that would watch, Monday Night Football, record Sunday Night Football because I had a bedtime,
Right.
so I could stay up late, but I loved all things football, all things sports, but football being the main. But looking through all the football card packets that I had, and it's I don't know, it's probably nowhere near the collection of baseball cards you have, but I was still impressed that I had 4 or 5 stacks of those card book things that you used to be able to get. You probably still can,
Sure.
I in a while.
Yeah.
But just seeing old players, I had John Elway, Kurt Warner, like, just some of these guys that I kinda grew up watching, and I was like, "Man, this is so cool," and I don't know what I'll do with them one day, but they are cool to look through and just see your collection from time to time.
Well, it's interesting because as you get older in life, you realize how many people cross your paths. And when I was playing Stratomatic, for instance, or some of the other games, and just following people, I realized that a lot of those people who I watch now become friends of mine and or acquaintances, but
Yeah,
most of the time friends. And I'll reach out to them. And being in a position where I work for a radio station, I have a
yeah,
little bit easier time in getting to some people. I mean, Bill Mazeroski's always been my hero, and I've interviewed him times. I even bought him drinks, and he's still around. And I have the biggest Mazeroski collection in the world, which I still
yeah,
have. But Eric Kramer, former Lions and Bears quarterback in the NFL, dear friend of mine, lives not far from me. We used to do a podcast together, actually.
wow,
I'm researching a new baseball book I'm writing. Um, I've interviewed several players
yeah,
who I remember growing up. Last week I talked to Bob Locke, who's now a Pirate broadcaster, used to be a pitcher. Um, Phil Regan, I got to talk to. I interviewed him and several others. Tony Banderas, who never made it to the major leagues, but is a wonderful former minor league player. And it's all about the changes in baseball in the last 20 years. And so I'm talking to. I'm going to talk to a total of 10 players, and even a former Pirate shortstop, Jack Wilson, who um, lives near here and coaches high school baseball. We're friends,
wow,
and so it's interesting that over the course of time, you're growing up, say, "Wow, that wow, that was a player, wow, in the major
yeah,
leagues," and then later on, there are times when they become friends of yours,
yeah,
which has been really, I mean, I've got pictures up here of me and Will Wheaton, me and Harmon Killebrew, me and Jack Wilson, and then me and my dad. I mean, so
yeah. That's awesome. No, it's just so cool. I mean, I'm a big sports guy too, and yeah, and I've met a couple people, but yeah, it probably changes the dynamics, being able to know them personally and then hang out and
it does.
talk and chat, and
It
in
does.
a cool way. But there's always when you don't know them, there's always this like I don't know mysteria, ness to the players you kind of follow, and there's always just that kind of
Uh-huh.
cool factor to just I don't know following their career and life, and then
Yeah.
you meet 'em and they're just most time good people. It's really cool that you got
Yeah, they
to be
are.
friends.
And sometimes you get into their lives and a little deeper than you think you ever going to, but, it's a great part of life. I guess
Yeah,
that's the easiest way for me to describe it. It's a great part of life. You have your friends, your family, and sometimes you never think you're gonna be, you know, buds with, somebody who was
yeah,
on the NFL stage or the Major League Baseball stage,
yeah,
and you realize that they're just like you and everybody else, that they
yeah,
made more money and reached a different level than you.
yeah, yeah.
They certainly
No,
made more money. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's a fact. But no, well, Bob, I got one more question for you, and anyone who
sure.
listens to the pod knows I ask this to everyone. But obviously, as a writer and an author, I'm sure you've read plenty of books as well. But what's a book or two that has had a good, an impact on you personally or professionally? And what's something that when people ask you, hey, Bob, what's a good book recommendation? What's one that you typically throw out there to them?
Well, this is gonna sound strange, but, I love logic,
Okay.
and the most logical person I think I've ever read, is The Prince by Machiavelli. And, Machiavelli was, a Florentine who, um was a legislator, so to speak, in Italy, and a lot of people called him said he was just a terrible person. But The Prince is a very short book, and then there's selected discourses as well. That for some reason, when he lays out his life plan, for government or whatever. It's the most logical thing you'd ever want to think of. It's dastardly, but it's logical. And I think when I read that the first time, it was just struck me as the logic of it. And that's one book that I always suggest people read, and it's a very short one. And then the other book, is actually series of books that I read when I was younger. Um, there was about um, Mosby, the Gray Ghost of the Confederacy, and it
Okay.
was a fictional series based on, an actual uh, Confederate soldier, cavalryman. And I just, I've always been a fan, or always been interested in American history, especially. But
Yeah.
I've considered myself a historian, and the Civil War was always my, I think, my favorite, part to study, and did a lot of it, and that fascinated me. And being a Northerner, I guess I was fascinated here, where I was enthralled with a Southern uh, cavalry officer, and it that always kind of intrigued me, and I love that series. It was just easy to read as a junior high
Yeah.
school student, and just fun, and I just really enjoyed it. And there's probably a couple other books out there that I've enjoyed reading, but those are the two that always come to mind for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so many books that people read. I'm sure it's hard to come up with 1 or 2 that are your
Yeah.
favorites. I usually have 1 or 2 a year that kinda stick out to me, uh, but no, well, Bob, it has been man, it's been a pleasure to talk with you. We've got 1 of your books. I need to get the rest of them up on the website, but if
Yeah.
anyone wants to read the book before the, film comes out one of these days, 5 Seconds to Die, it is on the
Hopefully.
website. And yeah, hopefully there will be a really cool movie that comes out after that. But Bob, no, it's been a pleasure. It's an honor to spotlight your books, and now that we've met, I'm certainly going to be following you and curious to see what other work you create, whether that's the play, movies, or more books. Just can't wait to see what you continue to do.
Well, thank you, Chris. I really enjoyed talking to you too. Sometimes podcasts are a little bit, a drudge, but this was not, and I really enjoyed talking to you. This was a lot of fun, I appreciate it, being in radio myself, I know, from the other side of where you're at, and it's, not always easy, but you've done a great job, and I appreciate that, this was really a blast.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the kind
Thanks for
words,
having
Bob.
me on.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again when you continue to release
Got it.
books. We'll just have to make this like a thing we do on the release
Sure.
dates.
Always up for it.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Bob.